From GameFi to GambleFi to Tap Games, the best earning strategies.
First of all, congratulations to everyone here. Bitcoin touched 90,000 yesterday, which is a huge, let's go, right? But yeah, just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Hamid. I'm from Luna PR, the Director of Growth, and we specialize in a few different things. The core aspect of our delivery is PR and marketing, specifically for crypto, Web3, and now we're sort of moving into the iGaming, gambling industry as well. I'm not going to take too much time introducing myself, but I have a lovely panel with me that have extensive experience in all the topics we're talking about today. And just to get it rolling and starting it off, I know Dr. Jane was talking about tap games and how insane it is, right? Like 250 million users for Hamster Combat, and they've been around for less than a year. And when you compare that to traditional GameFi or even Web2 gaming, it's astounding how much they grow. But my first question is, how do we strike a balance between game quality, user acquisition, and earning potential to really strike a balance between retention and, I guess, gameplay experience?
First of all, I'm hyped, man. All-time high. What a time to be alive. What a time to have a conference. And while I wanted to be home for this time, I'm happy to be here and to share the enthusiasm with everyone. You know, almost 90,000, it's insane. I know we're here supposed to talk about games and tap and stuff, but I have to say it, man. Bitcoin, 90,000 almost. It's a good day to be alive.
Massive.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as tap games are concerned, so first of all, my background is in Web2 gaming. Right, I've been on YouTube doing Web2 gaming videos. I'm among the first 1,000 people to hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube in Web2 gaming. So, whoop, whoop, let's go.
That's a high number.
Yeah, so going from that to what I do now, which is crypto gaming specifically, on YouTube, tap is something that a lot of people are looking over. They don't fully understand the potential of tap games because it's not necessarily about being a good game as much as it is a marketing ploy, as much as you can onboard users to a base experience that's not necessarily the tap game. So I think that's where the potential in this is going to lie. That's just my personal opinion, but I think that makes sense, right? So what do you...
Absolutely. I mean, Mark?
I think Mark has something to say about this.
No, I totally agree with you guys. Something that I like to say always is that looking at the past, looking at the first games that were developed, you know, Mario Kart, Pokemon, they were mainly all in 2D, you know. So to a certain extent, it's not the graphics of the game or the gameplay, but as everyone is saying, it's purely the community that is built behind it. You know, we're mentioning the tap game, 250 million users. You know, it's irrelevant if the game is good or no. At the end, they acquire 250 million people playing their own game on their own platform. So user acquisition is key when creating these games.
But do you credit it to the earning potential of tap games, or where do you think it is? Is it the marketing?
I would say it's a mix of user acquisition and marketing. You know, you need to make sure that you need to keep your customers, you know, wanting more. You know, you need to be flexible as well. And looking at the crypto side of it, you know, there's a lot of opportunities that one can get into and obviously synergize across the marketing side of utilizing a tap game, for example. But then that is just the first door to your own like world or product out there.
I know Morten.
I think the tap games actually showed us the real true value of token effect. Like, this is actually where you saw, like, even though it's speculators, they come in for speculate, it actually is not because they're going to be long-term fans of this, and not because it's going to be sustainable, but they're only going to come in basically just for the token effect. Speculate in this one, quickly kind of like monetize, and then they're out again. But it's about how you can convert them maybe into more sustainable, actually. So I think this is a testing ground right now for the whole TapFi, which I think is super interesting, actually. And I come kind of like from a way background in gaming, blockchain back in 2013, have my own Web3 company, working with big brands like FIFA. Saw some of the panels here before, so I've been in kind of like using data for Web3 and actually building games on that one for FIFA, pro cycling, all these kind of things. So I think it's extraordinary kind of what is happening right now, especially now with App Store and all these kind of like big Play Stores actually, who's now trying to shut people out. And I think now Telegram actually is onto something to utilize in between.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because onboarding people and having a crypto game with NFTs, with a blockchain on the App Store, on the Google Play Store, it's a hurdle. It's difficult. That's what everybody says so. So having them on Telegram, where someone said 950 million users, Hamster Combat, what, 250 million?
40% bots, but okay, it's still fair enough.
Okay, we're not here to talk about that part. Okay. Bots? What's that? Yeah. No. But that's just one more thing that's so amazing about these tab games. You know, I wasn't always a big advocate about tab games. You know,
oh, you feel like an idiot, right? Just like sitting there, just tapping away.
Yeah, but come on, look, everybody at least tried it. I mean, the game Hamster Combat itself, as a gamer, you can't even categorize it as a game. But have you tried it? You tried to tap it, tried to see what's the hype about. So, you know, that's where the whole thing comes in. And it's so easy to onboard people on it. It's so easy to launch a product on it. And then, you know, what I said before, having a base product that's like your, let's say, layer 1 game, and then you have layer 2 on the Telegram. You can look at it that way. That makes sense. It just makes so much sense.
Yeah, I would say just the implementation, you know, is also super easy, right? You know, one thing is to get on Telegram, get in and play the games. Also from a developer point of view, like, you know, you can easily kind of like, and that's not about quality, but I still think you can have some certain of quality that is actually equally quite good, but it's more like now you will have an easier way to onboard. And user acquisition, everybody knows that in gaming is skyrocketing, right? It's so high and it's so expensive, and right, if you can't get them into playing your game or download your app, I actually think that Telegram can be a way, an enabler into this one. A mini game on that one on Telegram and actually just get them in where they will now download the full version. I think we're going to see a whole new way of actually, and especially now when Apple has lost their monopoly actually on the App Store, I think we're going to see a whole now new wave of this one.
I think one more thing we're not talking about here is the earning side, the earning potential from these games, because would anyone really play the tab games without the airdrops and the earning potential? What do you guys say about that?
I know Morten mentioned it, right, about the speculation, right?
It is speculation.
Yeah,
it's
like
the token effect.
When Notcoin came out, right, everyone was like, Notcoin's going to be listed on Binance, so everyone, like, mine your tokens while you can before it gets listed. And that aspect obviously creates word of mouth, and it spreads like wildfire. And
something to add, I believe, you know, I totally agree with you guys that people get in to get something in return. You know, this is like airdrops.
Of course.
There's like, a good example is Grass.io, for example, that it did months and months people sharing their own network, internet. Then eventually, at the end, it was mainly for the airdrop itself. But the nice thing behind it as well, you get into a community. You get to meet people that are like-minded. You can connect with others. You know, if you're building something, you can find others that can work with you. You know, so it's not just getting into a community or just playing a tab game. You know, it's all about, as you was mentioning, Morten, it's the user experience to onboard. You know, I'm coming from iGaming. I've been 10 years working on online casinos. When crypto came in, people, traditional players, didn't just go in and start depositing crypto. Nowadays, they are looking for these platforms. Why? There's better VIP, there's better bonuses, there's a better user experience, more portfolio of games. And that's the approach that we need to take.
Exactly, but still see how little we've actually developed the wallets, right? Because right now, still, if you're signing up to whatever wallet it is, the first thing you'll see, save these 12 words, otherwise you'll lose everything you own. Okay, fantastic, I'm already in. Like, you know, this is a great onboarding experience for me, right? So it's kind of like we're shooting ourselves in the foot instead of kind of like looking at how could we actually do this better. And then you can always discuss kind of like, again, custodial, non-custodial. That's what we're going to solve. And I think the wallets right now is going to be the key in that one. And especially to handle what I call sub-identities. Like you're in multiple games, but you collect multiple data from multiple games. And how can I monetize this one? And actually, how can I sell my whole account? Because now it's just on the blockchain. It's just a smart contract. Here you go, sell it. Like, and I can monetize on that one. So I think we're going to see loads of innovation actually happening right now.
In fact, to add about that, I believe that eventually it's important that we educate our customers and even our players that are joining our platforms. We cannot just expect everyone to understand what's a custodial and non-custodial wallet. You know?
They don't care.
And they don't care. They just want to earn money. they can shift it out in fiat or stable coins, you know, and just jump onto another game.
That's why I'm here, man. I'm here to educate. You know, I always like to say, we don't hate, we educate. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. And I would say it's a good example how we can utilize tap games. Something that we will be rolling out, in fact, in our product Pyaza, is creating tap games to educate. What is crypto? What is blockchain? What are wallets? At the same time, you have a step 2 guide how to utilize a wallet, create an account, send funds, you know, so they can understand. Because at the end, to understand crypto, you need to get your hands dirty. Yeah. You cannot just spectate or listen to YouTube videos all day.
And I actually,
hey, come on, of course you can.
And I actually think new marketing, kind of like, this is why we see it. We built for FIFA back then, where we actually kind of like added in questions during the match in order to actually segment a Web3 user for actually a fan, in that case, like a super fan. Because sending them questions during the match would actually now add into the metadata. I think now tap games will be part of actually how do you actually make sure you also have that data in your metadata. Tapping something during a match, or doing kind of like anything within sports or whatever it could be. So.
Absolutely, and you know, touching on education, right? When we look at not only tap games, when you look at the larger gaming studios, the premium franchises, them moving into GameFi, not only that, you know, low quality, but the easier games to build. What is the main barrier for people like them, like the major studios, to get into this space?
Regulation. Right now they're so afraid, they actually don't care about the revenue. What they're afraid about is like that their brand, their name is going to be on the front cover of a newspaper. Like, you have done something, and especially, I think now with Mika actually coming in force, we're going to see a whole now, kind of like now there's a framework, right? They now kind of like know what actually to deal with. So I think that's going to be the first barrier. But still, it's kind of like making sure to also understand what is Web3. So there's a lot of educational in this one. But still, kind of like they are so afraid actually of, you know, well, do we violate my IP? Kind of like what will happen? And I don't get what you guys are doing, your concept, so on. It's far out, right? So that's what I've been trying to deal with, kind of like with BBC Studios the last 6 years, I think so.
I would add as well, the challenging part is operating in different markets. Because eventually, regulation is going to be different across all of the globe. We have Mika for Europe, but the States now are going to have a different framework. There's the Asian side as well, which I would say they are very heavily on Web3 games. You know, we're not going to say mentioning the old ones like Axie Infinity and so on. But nowadays, you know, there's a lot of new games that people are getting in, and even they're earning much more money just doing rather regular work. So it's a bit of a game changer in certain markets.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're kind of like in my new company. I used to have a Web3 company, but in Pixelpai that we have now is exactly that one. I could see the struggle with gaming studios just want to be creative, and suddenly they had to have an army of different kind of like smart contract developers and Web3 developers. They need to have a big legal counsel. They suddenly also kind of like need to have embedded finance, because these companies are now being, or the games are becoming open economies. So we actually have an all-in-one platform that basically is registered to handle all that and actually understands that in this jurisdiction, this is a security, this is now utility. How can I operate and send digital assets and money across in this whole space? So that's going to be what I think Mika is going to drive that one, but you're completely right.
Eventually, I believe this already happened in iGaming. You know, we had the MGA license 12 years ago, then UK started regulating, Sweden, Germany, Dutch. So it's a similar route that we would need to take, especially when it comes to transactions. You know, like you're saying, these games have an economy behind them. It's not like playing a traditional game, you know, like Counter-Strike, Call of Duty. There is an economy of digital assets, but it's a different type of economy. In this side, the people have more control. That's the nice thing of Web3. You are in control of your assets. You can sell, you can cross-sell, you can utilize on different games if they obviously work together. So it's going to be a different dynamic, and I believe, yes, the biggest elephant in the room is always regulation when it comes to blockchain and Web3 and crypto in general.
But it needs to be regulated. You know, if we only knew exactly what we can do, it would be so much easier to do everything, right? Regulation just needs to happen as soon as possible. We shouldn't be against it.
And less opportunities if we're fully regulated as well.
I mean, good points all around. These guys, I swear, they stop themselves, but if I don't stop them, they will talk forever. I mean, last night we all met, and it was 30 minutes, but it turned out to be 45 in an hour, and it's just, these guys have a wealth of knowledge. But touching more on the GambleFi topic now, right? We see products like Polymarket, who predicted the US election better than anyone else. And that sort of aspect to this industry is so new, and has crazy hype now. How do you see things like prediction markets, for example, or GambleFi in general, integrating with GameFi, integrating with Web3, and adding more value and a wealth more users to the industry?
I think we can quickly agree that any blockchain is going to have a prediction model
100%.
kind of like built in.
100%.
So absolutely, right? Because again, kind of like, especially in blockchain, a lot of the issue is actually, for many people, kind of like to understand it, and especially the tokenomics behind it, or throughput. There can be so many things that actually is kind of like making a difference, I think so, in this one. But the prediction models, for me, is kind of like, and if you follow Vitalik's blog, actually, he's just written a super interesting piece on that one, the whole prediction market. So I strongly believe that IPs, once we have something that basically companies, brands, and blockchains can integrate, they're all gonna have it, because it's gonna be so important, actually.
Integrating a predictions market inside of a game, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
That sounds like something I want to use, to be honest, you know? Like whenever you ask a question, I try to look at it from a user's perspective. I try to see myself as the voices, the voiceless, you know, the people. I know what I know what the people want, you know, and I know what's most talked about. But having something like that, like a poly market inside of a game, like inside of that metaverse experience, sounds like a whole new layer that could be really fun, if you know what I mean.
No, and to continue on you guys, you know, I totally agree, and I see that, yes, it's going to be a potential new vertical for Bitcoin, for crypto exchanges, and even for iGaming itself. You know, there's already a good number, I would say, of markets that you can predict. You know, like back in 2020, Polka Markets had launched, which was purely owning a Polka token, and you can leverage the market yourself. Like what is going to be the weather tomorrow? Is it above 25 degrees or below? So it's interesting, and it gives the opportunity to the user himself to create his own markets, rather traditionally like we're used to on Betfair Exchange, for example, or Rose Sports Betting, where you have X amount of markets, which always the sports betting platform has an edge. So eventually, it's a different dynamic, I would say.
We should have done a prediction market for this. Are we going to cross the 20 minutes or are we not? What's your bet?
I mean, we have 7 minutes left, and I kind of want to have an open question at the end here, and I want to drive a little bit of controversy between you guys. For the gaming industry, whether it be Tap Games or GameFi or GambleFi, whatever it may be, what do you individually believe will be the major catalyst to onboard the traditional gamers or the non-traditional gamers or anyone the fastest, or will make the biggest difference for this industry?
There's a couple of different ways we can answer this question. So one thing that I always like to talk about is that there's going to be different levels of blockchain integration within games. There will be games that purely have an NFT marketplace and that's it. There will be games that have a token economy in some way. There will be games that have both. There will be games that strictly run on play to earn. We have Pixels, we have Axie Infinity and their own in games. They heavily rely on that, and they have their own market, which is sort of the mobile market. And then there's games like Off the Grid, which just launched. It has the traditional Web2 gamers in it as well. I was playing Off the Grid with my Web2 friends. It's the first Web3 game that the Web2 people really actually like. So, you know, and that game has an NFT marketplace, obviously being on testnet right now. Once they go to mainnet, it's just going to be the NFTs. There's not going to be the token system implemented quite yet, even though they're running the Gunzilla blockchain and all of that. But so that's why I see this as a sort of multifaceted question, you know, rather answer. What will be the biggest driving force for adoption is going to depend on what kind of market you want to adopt. Do you want the mobile market? Then I can give you Axie Infinity. You want the PC market? I can give you games like Off the Grid that just have like a Steam marketplace, but it's tokenized. It's on the blockchain. So yeah, it really depends on the market you want to capture.
Yeah, I come from maybe a different angle. I come from an interoperability layer instead. I think actually the issue is a lot of the big brands needs to choose what network to be on. And for a big brand, that's a decision that is minimum like 10 years. Like, first of all, cost a lot of money and actually do it and then understand it. And then what happens actually now if I can't merge or can't like move into another chain. So what we have done now is actually created actually as a layer 3. So we now can do the interoperability. So a game can be deployed on Ethereum and on Solana on the same time if they want to. So now user acquisition across chains is actually now doable. So I think that's going to be the driver, because at the end of the day, it's still user acquisition. Like, how do I spend my money to get the users, and how do I convert them actually to becoming a paid one from a freemium or whatever it could be? So that interoperability layer is going to be the driver, I think so.
What chain do you prefer? What do you recommend to you?
That's my personal kind of like, I'm chain agnostic.
What do we invest in, Martin?
But I was in the ICO for Ethereum, so I have a big love for Vitalik and also the Soulbound token and that approach. But the throughput in general in blockchain is not high enough. That's why it will never work in a financial world. That's why DLT is going to be the future of finance. Because in our case, we are basically a DLT that can operate on all 50. We're operating on 50 protocols right now. But the problem is these throughputs down here, and especially as a in the consensus models you have down here, then it's not fast enough. So in this case, we can run 1 million transactions per second, but again, in a financial world, you need 200,000 transactions like NASDAQ when they open. The problem is Solana right now is maybe 100,000 transactions per second. So it's not fast enough to operate in the real world. That's why you need DLT to make sure, and then it's a different consensus model. It's a progressive kind of like, yeah, so.
Interesting. Mark?
So yeah, no, to continue what we're saying, I do believe, again, it's user experience to onboard users and to have a seamless onboarding and to give them what they want. It's not nowadays, like if we look at the games that of the past, it was like a developing of a game, you know, there's a certain story and you need to stick to it. When it comes to Web3 games, or even if we're looking for GambleFi, we need to create sort of different user journeys. And even with the power of other emerging technologies like AI, machine learning, people can have different experiences and utilizing the same game. You know, like Tony mentioned off the grid, you know, they had people that were playing traditional games. They don't even know that they're playing a game that is on the blockchain. You know, they didn't even realize that there's like an economy behind it. They can get into digital assets. Why? Because they built a game which is purely to onboard traditional players and Web 2 and synchronize Web 2 and Web 3 gamers themselves.
I need to check out Off the Grid, man. You
and
guys
then once they realized, you know, for my Web 2 friends, we played this. I didn't tell them it's a crypto game. They liked it. We extracted some NFTs outside of the game. That's how it works. So inside of it's a battle royal, right? You jump in a map and you extract these little hexes.
It's like playing Fortnite, PUBG, and so on.
Once you extract the hex that's inside of your inventory now, it becomes an NFT, right? And then I tell them, okay, well, this that we extract in the game can actually sell it. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, crypto games, I get it. You know?
Yeah, and people actually have kind of like, you know, on NFTs, right? You know, there's this kind of like bad reputation. And I remember I had a client, he was just saying, first of all, I know you're on blockchain, but I just want to say I don't want anything to do with NFTs. So don't worry. What we do, we actually give you a digital asset certificate instead. So it's a DAX certificate, so it's not an NFT. And he was just saying, okay, cool, thank you very much.
In fact, it's all about the wording itself. You know, NFTs is a technology. It's like it's like working on another development code. It's just you're working on NFT tech to build digital assets. So
just technology.
Just, yep.
100%. I mean, from a VC perspective, I know a lot of the play-to-earn guys don't like calling themselves play-to-earn because VCs are so sick of play-to-earn projects now. And it's essentially it's just a description word for what the product is, right? That people are afraid to mention it because the narratives around them are so spun.
It was similar, it was similar to the metaverse. For example, like 2 years ago, if you mentioned your product, you're going to go into the metaverse, you're going to get funding, you know, within a day.
Oh, man.
And it's still play to earn. Web 2 games is still play to earn.
Still, yeah.
Like you're playing and you're earning a reward.
Exactly.
The only difference is just like now I actually own it and actually now I can sell it.
Exactly.
Like instead of actually just the company itself or the game studio, right? So
like
that's
people
a huge
invest all of their time. Majority of people invest so much time on these games, and the fact that they can actually use their assets that they build on the game, and that's a barrier to entry for them to play a game is just baffling.
And
right?
again, it's not just playing the game, but you're acquiring something and you're holding on to something. This is like the approach we're going to take when it comes launching Pyaza. We're going to build a creator economy. So if you're creating content, if you're doing events, if you're doing meetups, you can earn something out of it. You're not just like one of those million influencers out there, you know, trying to grind up your way up.
Yeah, it looks like...
If anybody made bets that we're going to pass the 20 minutes, you just want some money?
Olga needs to hit the reset button so we can start over again.
Just looking at us straight up. You know?
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. I know these guys are amazing, and you guys can catch them after they get off stage. But thank you guys again for
Happy
listening.
all-time high day, everybody. Thanks for
Happy
listening.
all-time
Thank you,
high day.
AIBC. Thank you.